And we're on. Say hello again, everybody. Mike Zimmer here, ZIMCO Entertainment, ZIMCO Sports. I did a ZIMCO Sports podcast, and now it's time to hop over and do something for the ZIMCO Entertainment side. We haven't done one of these in a while, doing both video and podcast. It's This Week in Trivia, and we haven't done one of these in quite a while. Um, Not a lot of feedback, but I missed doing it, so I'm gonna try again, and I'm hopefully keeping your interest, and we'll get you to share these videos. So what we do here is kind of do a recap and talk about what we learned at trivia this week, and this week in trivia. Also, I will tell you where I made some mistakes or where I got my inspiration or whatever else for the questions or why they came up. We always start with in the news, and that's where we're going to start with. We learned that the Dalai Lama turned 90 and wants to live to be 130. Personally, I could never imagine making it past about 80, let alone living. Well, I'll be 50 next month. 80 more years. That's crazy to me. The Dalai Lama wants to be reincarnated thereafter. It's a lot of living. Just a lot of living. Meanwhile, President Trump next year wants to. This has been something that has been a little underreported, that love him or hate him, the idea that we can celebrate as a nation the 250th birthday of our great country next year. He has brought up at different points in time a celebration of the country and doing different things all year, and each state would do their interpretation of what would be great. Again, let's put politics aside on that. I think it's a good idea, no matter who the president is. Let's celebrate our nation. And one of the things, though, that we had a question about is he's going to have something on the White House grounds. And I had the choices of a Yankees Red Sox game, the biggest drone show in the history of the world, horseshoe pitching contest. I'm trying to think what else we had on there. But the event is actually a UFC championship bout. That's very American, isn't it? I don't know. I like UFC. Not everybody's a fan of pugilism. Uh, Also in the news, this was a weird one. Very weird. If you went to one of our Thursday events, you got this as one of your questions. But a man in California was arrested for inciting panic in a hoax where he left an item he had made at a gas station convenience store. It happened to be a teddy bear that was made to look like it was made from human skin, which was just the gross idea. It scared some people out there. The people immediately thought that there's a serial killer, this and that, and the other. He was apprehended pretty quickly because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all our fantastic friends, before you decide to commit a stupid crime, and some of you out there, God love you, you probably thought about things like this from time to time. I say take heed. There are cameras everywhere. You are constantly on tape. Hopefully, you don't want to do bad crap. Hopefully, you're not one of those bad people. There's cameras everywhere. So don't do bad crap. So, there you go. Speaking of doing bad crap, Jimmy Swaggart, the televangelist, died. 88 years old. Not a lot of people remembered him. It was a mixed bag of answers. A few other people were spurred to the answer when I said, "I have sinned." He confessed that to his flock on camera. Once upon a time, these televangelists were big, and I admit, even in my family, I had an aunt who was very religious, and she liked to watch her religious programs, and she may have sent old Jimmy some money once upon a time. One of our former hosts, Patrick. Good to hear from Patrick, by the way. If Patrick Puckett, if you remember, one of our fantastic hosts, he lives in Texas now. He was raised in a very religious home, and he grew up listening to Jimmy Swagger, and he's like, it's a sad day. And hey, look, see, there was also the other question. Look, and again, and I've got something to talk about with politics, and because I want to kind of get it off my chest, but at the same time, look, I do my best to kind of pick at both sides, or not pick it all. Let's not go down a divisive rabbit hole. That's why the news these days, I'm wondering why the ratings are so terrible. Well, it's all bad news, right? They don't, they're also not always fair. But in different countries, there's different rules about what's fair, what can be said. And for better or for worse, here in the United States, you still have the freedom of speech, and you have those First Amendment rights, and but not every place has that, and they have libel laws, especially in Europe. And I had the question, which country's first lady is taking her libel case to the highest court in the land, and that is Emmanuel Macron's wife in France. And as Austin Powers might have said, "It's a man, baby." Well, you can't say that because you might get sued. There, it's interesting that and it was international news. So I hope, again, we never want to offend. We never want to. It's just it's trivia. It should be a good time, but also at the same time, I don't want anybody to get offended or get on their soapbox saying, "But that's not trivia." It's culture. So there you go. That was what was in the news this week. Not a lot other, and again, man, it's tough to write those news questions, but as we get the core six in the news: television, history, movies, sports, and music. The news is something we should be talking about, and that's going to get me onto this quick little soapbox thing, and it's about um, Stephen Colbert being canceled. Um, and I didn't know where else to kind of point this thought. But here's my thought on him getting canceled. Well, look, apparently that show takes $40 million to produce. And once upon a time, late night shows mattered. They simply don't now. The nation went to bed with Johnny Carson. Between 9 and 19 million viewers in America went to bed with Johnny Carson. The Tonight Show was the place that celebrities, they wanted to be there. They wanted to be seen. It's also where you could see up and coming comedians. It's where you could see fantastic bands. I even growing up, I loved Letterman's original show, The Late Late Show, and then I liked when he went to CBS. And when he was at CBS, he was pulling between 8 and 15 million viewers for the first handful of years of watching. But this started to dissipate because all of a sudden there's more shows and the 24-hour news cycle, and it cut into that. I loved Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien was fantastic for years. I still love his podcast, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. Fantastic. Listen. However, something it just changed with Americans, and I think it happened with The Daily Show, again, for better or for worse. It got super popular with a portion of the population, specifically left-leaning, and it became a political show, but it was funny. Jon Stewart is amazing. I don't tend to always agree with his politics or people's politics. I don't agree with, Sean Hannity's politics. But I think what happened is imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but it doesn't always work. Suddenly, Stephen Colbert, who started on The Daily Show, it's the time slot where David Letterman left off, and David Letterman was, oh man, he was cooked. He was tired of the business. Let's be honest. And Colbert comes on, and he maxed out at about 4 million viewers. He was averaging about 2.4 million viewers. Jimmy Kimmel's not very much more, but they also are decidedly left wing. They had Democratic politicians and viewpoints that alienated about half of the crowd. And CBS said, well, we can't get the ad revenue. We can't get the star power. So they axed the show. And they didn't exactly axe the show. It's on for another year. R.C. Smith, former host of ours, fantastic friend, used to do some warm-up comedy on that show, brought up an important part and said, the sad fact is 200 people are going to lose their jobs. And that part I can feel bad about, but I don't really think he's censoring. I don't think it's good programming, and there's other stuff on. And you want to know what does not get talked about? You don't watch the show. You don't know much about it, but you read about it. Craig Gutfeld's on Fox pulls a bigger number than those guys combined. But politics of Fox are to the right. So again, the alienation of whatever. And again, so hopefully you know that when we do our trivia and we have the in the news, wander into politics a little, but I never want to get into a line where it becomes overly controversial because it's just trivia. But what I want you to do is I want you and your teammates to talk, and I hear all the things people say, pro, con. If I bring up a story, I'll hear them go, "Oh, that SOB," or I'll go, "Did you hear about how great this?" You hear the conversation of the people. That part of trivia is great. Never want to be divisive, though. Let's keep that in mind. TV questions this week. Dexter was a big point of emphasis. He's back. First handful of seasons of Dexter. And then once upon a time, I moved from the United States to England for a couple of years, and they didn't get the series as soon as we did. In fact, when I got to England, it was on the old season. It was like, oh crap. And I never picked back up, but it's one of those things I want to, but I liked it. We also had Stranger Things, a couple mentions this week. It's coming back soon. The trailer for that was released. We also had to mention a Jolt Cola. God, can you remember Jolt Cola? Just thought it was gross. The aftertaste was like when you chewed gum and the flavor had left, but you still had a little tinge back there. Never mind, it's a long time ago. Michael Strahan was in the news. He's going from Good Morning America and from the Fox NFL Sunday. He's also going to be on Shark Tank, which we also had the Draymond John FUBU question, kind of a spur of that. The garbage TV questions this week. We had Love Island and Hoot Mustafa, one of the better villains to come down the pike in a while. And then we had a debate. Are house shows and real estate shows, are they garbage TV? I say yes. House Hunters, and we also had Fixer Upper with the Gaineses. Um, Also, we had a couple questions here and there. Though I always find interesting is the people who love The Office and watched it, and people that go, "Ugh, I had never watched it and insist upon itself." I'm in the latter. I like The Office, so we had the question about who was in the accounting department. So you had Kevin, Oscar, and Angela. Uh, Office questions are always popular. They will always be popular in our trivia, but there's still that segment out there is like, I'm not giving in. I'm not watching it. Well, that I'm not doing Seinfeld. Nope, I don't like humor. So there you go. We had an audio bonus that was a TV question, a TV theme song that almost nobody got this week. 1964, Johnny Quest, the animated series. Beautiful piece of music. I'm a band nerd from once upon a time. I got tired of getting hurt playing high school football, and I joined the band, and it was a lot more fun. There was a lot more girls. But anyway, the trombone in that is fantastic. The animation for that old series also fantastic. If you ever get a chance to see it, it's a bit dated. Some of the references to natives and this and that, it's 1964. That's all I got to say. The history questions this week. The Eagle has landed. Had questions about the space program at a couple of our locations, which also led to a bit of a snafu on one of our Lulus. And poor wording is probably the best way that I could describe it. And all I can say is, look, we make mistakes and we apologize if it was confusing. But I made sure the space and geography was the category for the Lulu on our Thursday set, and it was the should have said government space agencies, but it just underlined space agencies. So if you were a part of that and got aggravated and put, well, SpaceX and this and that, geography, it was China, Japan, the European Space Agency, India, Russia. I gave a couple teams an opportunity to fix that where it concerned my Thursday gig. I didn't get a chance to tell my host that they could have probably done the same. The Russian royals, the anniversary of Tsar Nicholas II and his family being murdered by the communist Bolsheviks. We had the presidential natural deaths. 4 U.S. presidents have died a natural death. FDR had a cerebral hemorrhage. William Henry Harrison, I think that was a stroke. And we had Zachary Taylor. He died. We had a question about that. I'm cat destroying my paperwork over here. Sorry. Uh, we had a question about that, I think, a week or two ago about Zachary Taylor dying, and then that led into Obscure Presidents, which was Miller Fillmore. But I digress. The question we had though was which other one was out there, and it was Warren G. Harding. In 1923, had a heart attack in San Francisco while giving a speech. Very interesting story about that. I remember he's from Ohio, so I learned about him way back when as one of the Ohio gang and the Ohio presidents and Teapot Dome and all these things that a lot of people don't talk about. He was a very popular president for the first couple of years, and then he died. He was only in office 2.5 years. He dies of a heart attack. Well, it comes out afterwards. A lot of people in his administration crooked as the day is long. He hired a lot of his friends, which is a bad idea, and they got in trouble with all sorts of scandals. And I was also reading about the scandal, the Teapot Dome. I don't know why I'm getting off on a tangent here because I wanted to keep this short. I want to talk about something that was pretty simple that got blown out of proportion by the media because the other side of the political aisle didn't like somebody, and it was about contracts. It was about favoritism and this and that and the other, misappropriations of funds. That was in 1923. Things changed. They still do it. They all still rob from you, blow your taxes, and aren't accountable for their own. Anyway, I digress. I said I wasn't going to get political, but that is all politicians, and nothing's changed in 100 plus years. Let's see, what else do we have? Poets Corner. Westminster Abbey. Again, travel. If you ever get a chance to go to London, England, Westminster Abbey is a must not miss, and Poets Corner is where many of the great poets of British society are buried. Let's see, Tab Cola. For some of us, we knew Tab. We had Tab. We had sisters who drank Tab. It was gross. Another soda that didn't taste good to me. The use of saccharin as the sugar substitute in that, and there was a big thing about it. Well, it causes cancer and everything else, and but it was popular for a long time. 1963, it was invented, and it was a number one selling diet soda, number one soda in many years by itself, but number one diet soda until 1982. Diet Coke comes out, it took over as number one. The movies questions this week. Let's see. We had a lot of Superman questions. Let's lead with that one. Um, so when we look at movies, it's become a little political. Now, I am not a big superhero fan. I love Batman. Um, I will see anything Batman's in. But in general, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has never been my thing. I've seen only a handful of them. I know that's probably shocking to some of you. Considering I asked so many damn questions about it because they're popular. We're doing pop culture. It's movie anyway. So the Superman movie has been in the crosshairs of political questioning. It's woke. It's this and that. I trust my source, which is a friend of mine that I went to high school with, my friend Brew. He sees every superhero movie. He went out and he goes, "Don't listen to this. It's woke. It's this and that and the other." He's like, "It's a sincere depiction of Superman as superhuman, but he's a humanoid, and it makes him the most human." We had a lot of questions about that. It brought up the old Superman, Christopher Reeves, and a couple other questions along those veins. I'm curious though to see how this franchise of Superman goes forward. Honestly, I have so much fatigue for superheroes, um, but they're not going to stop making them because they're very profitable. It's just of the time. I mean, and maybe it'll die out. Maybe it won't. I mean, once upon a time, they were predicting that it was going to be nothing but Jaws 15, Rocky 74. All these, the Star Wars movies. God, they're still going. And I like some of the Star Wars films, but I mean, it's a lot. And some people they get fatigued. So anyway, Jennifer Love Hewitt back in the news. I know what you did last summer was one of the questions we had, and there were a couple of nicknames that I have heard for Jennifer Love Hewitt. And I'm not going to say what they are, but there was a lot of chatter. Did you see her? Or did you see her? Or she's had 3 kids. She looks like many other ladies who have had 3 kids. She's not the teenage actress anymore. Um, but yeah, it was a topic of conversation that I heard at trivia this week. I thought it was also interesting. Smurfs! I was a little kid, I love the Smurfs. And then I was like, man, the Smurfs are kind of annoying when I was about, and you're like Saturday morning cartoons. You're like, "Ah, I gotta get up and watch the Smurfs," and you're like, I missed most of the Smurfs because they were on early. And anyway, um, Rihanna is going to voice Smurfette. And I had to go down a rabbit hole to come up with some other Smurfs questions. Did you know that Gargamel created Smurfette? And she was supposed to have black hair, and she was supposed to absolutely ruin the other Smurfs and their good, holy nature. Anyway, Papa Smurf also wears red pants and a red hat. He's Papa Smurf. He's badass. Let's see. Spaceballs 2. Mel Brooks last week announced that there will be a sequel to the fantastic movie. And I always, so we have these questions about the movies questions and what is the extended title? And he had, in the original from 1986, he has the best line. And it's when he is the character Yogurt. And he's like, yes, it's merchandising. And he goes, and these are for Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money, which is what they're going to call the second one, which is I think is awesome. Most sequels are just a search for more money. We had the questions though. John Candy as Barf or Bartholomew, and of course Joan Rivers as Dot Matrix, the fantastic Joan Rivers. Gone too soon, both of them. Sports questions this week. We had the All Star Game questions, and I was wrong again. Our Wednesday set might have upset a few people. I didn't again have a chance to update my hosts. People complained, but a few people did catch it. They were like, wait a minute. So I had the question about Cal Big Dumper Raleigh as being the first catcher to win the All Star Games Home Run Derby. Fact. One of the other options was first switch hitter. And apparently, I thought there had been another one, and it went unchallenged when I went through the editing process. Some people said he was both. And so, again, I do apologize. I updated it at the Celtic Ray. I didn't get a chance to tell Bill at Chubby's or fantastic Xavier at O'Leary's. And where else were we? Lisa was filling in at Palm City Brewing this week. So hopefully you weren't too upset about that. I was going to say peed off, but I'm going to try to keep it clean. We also had the questions about the British Open, the Claret Jug. Um, golf questions, any of the sports questions. People are either interested in it or they're not. And they're like, yeah, that's too tough and everything else. Is like, well, look, what kind of sport do you like? Well, I like football. It's easy. We're getting to football. We're getting close. We're down about he's but I'm trying to keep it in season. So the British Open, it's in the news. It's also that is for golfers know the Claret Jug or they know the Jug. There's a lot of liberty that we can give on the answers on there. Also, the questions about our question about Jeff Gordon as the Rainbow Warrior and car number 24. I screwed up my version of that and I forgot to add the paint scheme element of the question. So I allowed some other nicknames that I remember he was called. We don't ask a lot of NASCAR questions either. Again, it's another sport where I feel like um, it's it's not in the popular lexicon of things, so you're not going to get it very often. Same with soccer. I asked an obligatory soccer question because it's not football season yet. End of story. The music questions this week. Oh, by the way, got music trivia coming up on this Monday. That is the 21st of July at Fort Myers Brewing. In addition to our music trivia that we already have at the Celtic Ray, and we are playing out the string at Village Brewhouse. We're down to just 2 shows left at Village Brewhouse, and it's music trivia. Those are all on Monday. Come out. The music trivia works this way. Instead of getting your 8 questions per round, you get 5 questions. and then 3 audio bonuses. And then each round is themed, so we try to get as many genres, as many years. We usually have music from the 60s to today. Sometimes we'll creep into the 50s. Probably not be beyond that. But there are all sorts of different categories. Last week we had the categories of there was the blackout, there was musical geography. We had a couple interesting other firsts. That was a really big one, and that gave way to the Beastie Boys question. First number one in sales rap album, 1987, Licensed to Ill, the Beastie Boys. So I had questions about the Beastie Boys this week. We also had questions about Hootie and the Blowfish. Sad news, Darius Rucker had to cancel part of his tour because he's had some vocal issues. So we had Hootie questions. And we also had the Old Crow Medicine Show question because he redid Wagon Wheel, which was a big hit. Not a big hit, but a hit for Old Crow Medicine Show. Also had the Kelly Clarkson questions this week. Boy, that's another thing. People either love or hate American Idol. When it came on in 2002, my ex-wife and I were dedicated watchers of it for about the first 2 or 3 seasons. And I was like, this is terrible. It's just they found all the good singers there are to find. They're not going to find anymore. Clarkson was wonderful, though. She was a wonderful ambassador for the show. She's been a wonderful, very successful since then. We had questions about her. She's doing a residency in Las Vegas, and apparently, though, she's difficult to work with because she's a little out there, and she canceled the first couple because it wasn't perfect. But anyway, who doesn't like Kelly Clarkson? So anyway, the as we wind down here, last couple of minutes on the clock. The wild card questions this week. We had some geography questions. The graveyard of the Atlantic. That is North Carolina. There are thousands of shipwrecks off the coast. And I was like, why is this? Well, that's why it's called that. But it's a combination of there's all the barrier islands, there's shallows, there's rocks, there's all these things. And of course, there's no natural harbor. There's all these inlets, and they're just tricky. There you go. Graveyard of the Atlantic. We also had the natural state, and I also kicked in that it's the only U.S. state with a working diamond mine. Probably should have said lower 48 because I do believe at one point in time there was one in Alaska. The choices were Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, and of course the answer, Arkansas. Let's see. We had the vaccine question, the MMR. What does MMR stand for? You had different variations of that. Measles, mumps, rubella was the R part of that. We also had the car questions. Before I go there, let's do the tropical storm question. I gave a plus or minus of 1. Do we like that? Or do we want more? Do we want more stuff like that? I have a cat coming over, by the way. This is Tay Tay, and that is her butt. Let's cover that up. 9 miles an hour for a tropical storm to be a tropical storm from a system. And then the car question. And so there are two variations on this. And we have a different set of questions each day. And I do my best not to have an overlap of the same question, but you might get a variation on the question. So we might have a question about cars. And we had the Lulu on Tuesday. Which 5 car brands sold the most in the United States last year? It's Toyota, Ford, Chevrolet, Honda, Nissan. Second cat, that's Petey, and that's Petey's hind end. But the company that sold the most individual, or not individual, most cars, company, and I made sure to say automaker, not brand, is General Motors. General Motors had about 600,000 more automobiles sold than Toyota. 17% market share versus about 15% market share. Again, it's the devil's in the details on the question like that. And I had sources to back those all up. So if you got any problem with it, sorry. That's what the internet, Google WebNet says. So there you go. Ladies, gents, boys, girls, that's it. That is this week in trivia. I have a big request. We got a couple places that we would desperately love you to come visit. Summertime sucks for so many of our venues. JB's Hideaway used to be Millhouse Pub, used to be I'm trying to think what it was before that, but please come out and see them on Tuesdays. We switch from Thursdays to Tuesdays. We're there at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Nikki Rivers is there. She needs your attendance this coming Tuesday. Wicked Pub, our newest venue, also a tucked away little gym. Our owner there, Charity, used to be with the Stevie Tomatoes group once upon a time. Now this is her place. Lovely little place to go, duck in and get something to eat. And it's not a big venue. So we need you to come out there and give it a try. That's Thursdays at 7. Backyard Social over there with Xavier. Sometimes funky about these places. And of course, that place, trivia kind of fades into the background a little bit because got DJs and they got bands and this and that. But on Tuesday nights at 7, man, they've got trivia and Xavier's awesome. Go see him. Sheena's back at Palm City this week. Let's see who else is back. Um, oh, Adam, our fantastic host, Adam. Adam's going to be off for a little bit. He's going to take some time off. We want him to wish him well and for him to get well. Also want to throw out a get well shout out to one of our fantastic patrons, Jackie Anderson out there. Jackie, I love you. Hopefully you're doing well. We hope to see you at Trivia real soon. But those are the shout outs and mentions. Don't forget, again, this week we've got music trivia. And then, of course, Tuesday and Wednesday, the final four of our trivia leagues for Fort Myers Brewing and Celtic Ray. Don't miss it. Ladies, gents, boys, and girls, have yourself a wonderful weekend.